What's going on, y'all? I've got some huge buffs for my boy Mr. Mime. I know a lot of people don't like this Pokemon. I personally like him a lot. I think it's cool. I don't know why, honestly. I couldn't really pinpoint the reason I like him, but I do like him. Uh, he's got all types of awesome buffs, not just in the form of raw stat boosts, but also in the fact that Technician has dozens of new options to abuse, and Energy Shield, which is a new ability that functions like multi-scale. It comes from Shadow Shield, and it is like a perfect fit for Mr. Mime. I was super happy with this one because he literally makes those barriers and stuff. Like it's perfect. It was almost made for him. Obviously, it wasn't actually made for him, but it's super sick nonetheless. And then Mr. Mime Jr. has Prankster, which works great with a lot of utility moves, and I'll get into that later in the video. But Mime Jr. is great up until level 25 for the early game for Melee Island and the early Akala Island totems. But yeah, Mr. Mime is sick. Technician, I'll cover those first. So this is a good segue, actually. So in this ROM hack, I have buffed and reworked literally like 600 plus moves. That's not an exaggeration. If you go to the move sheet, it's linked right down below in the description. You can check out the Google sheet and look at all the Pokemon buffs and changes. And most importantly, the, excuse me early, but yeah, you can look at all these crazy move buffs and changes. There are so many of them, so I highly recommend you give these a look. They're organized into all types of useful categories. I organized them by type, by effect, whatever it may be. So yeah, and you can also just Control plus F or just scroll and read. You know, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. But please do give that a look. If this type of thing interests you, also make sure you bookmark the Google Sheet, subscribe to the channel, and all that fun stuff. I would really appreciate that. But with that being said, Mr. Mime, the GOAT. Technician I'll be covering first because Energy Shield applications are very simple. Like, it's pretty obvious what it does. It's just multi-scale, but it's great. And I'll get into that later on. But Technician has also new options. So there are dozens of new priority moves in this game, one of each type. Sorry, usually at least two of each type, actually. In this case, you have Pixie Dust and Influx, which become 67.5 base power priority options. Those are good with Technician. Draining Kiss is 75 base power with Technician, heals you by a lot, of course. Confusion is 90 base power with Technician, has a 50% chance to confuse. Not like the greatest thing in the world, but for early game especially, that's really strong. Obviously, Psychic is the same power, and then Psyshock is even stronger, but, you know, it is what it is. I'm just going over them chronologically. Disarming Voice is very good with Technician. Disarming Voice will drop the special attack of the opponent by 1. And Disarming Voice is 60 base power, so it becomes 90 base power. So not only is it strong, but it's also a great utility move. It's even stronger than stuff like Dazzling Gleam without Technician. And it's only 5 base power weaker than Radiant Edge and 10 base power weaker than Moonblast, so that's all really fun. Magical Leaf, that will give you a +1 special defense boost and is also 90 base power, and you learn it right in time for Olivia, so that's super nice. And then lastly, by level up, your Technician option is Force Waves, which is learned hopefully just in time for Nanu. That's like one of the little spottier level limits. I haven't planned those out yet, but most likely you'll have that either exactly in time for Nanu or a little bit early for Nanu. And Force Waves is awesome. Obviously, Force Waves is I don't know why I said obviously. Basically, it's a special fighting type move that hits twice. So with Technician, it's 105 base power. It also has a 51% chance overall to paralyze the opponent, and it's just a really nice move overall to have. It also bypasses Chople. I don't know why I said Shuka. Choppleberry and stuff, which is really good. So yeah, Force Waves, awesome move, very strong. 15 base power, stronger than Aura Sphere, so that's good. Via TM, you get a lot of other Technician options. So Ominous Wind is the same as Disarming Voice, but it's of course Ghost type coverage. Shockwave is a 55 base power priority move. So that's pretty good for a Technician, that it becomes 83.5 base power, and it's just a solid, strong electric type coverage move, especially for that point in the game. Charge Beam, 75 base power, but it gives you +1 special attack guaranteed. Super good move. A Technician. Water Pulse is the same as Ominous Wind and Disarming Voice. It's just water type. That's good coverage. Icy Wind, 90 base power with Technician. Ice type coverage, very good. And that's about it for Technician. So, that's plenty of options. That Draining Kiss, those priority moves, Magical Leaf, coverage options. It's a great ability for him. And, he already had it before, so that's awesome. Energy Shield, tons of applications for Energy Shield. Again, your newfound bulk is great on the special side, especially 70, 65, 150 bulk, especially. You are an absolute tank. With Energy Shield, you can swallow even strong, super effective attacks. Keep in mind, though, however, as a Psychic and Fairy type in this hack, you are now weak to Bug, because Fairy no longer resists Bug. So that's something you should keep in mind, especially for First Impression, which is one of the most common priority moves in this game. That will hit through your lower defense stat. and will outspeed you and stuff. Not that his speed set is the greatest. It's kind of a, it's a solid speed tier. It works good with Choice Scarp and stuff, but for a lot of boss fights, like you're going to need a speed boosting option to outspeed most things, especially because you're not guaranteed a plus speed nature or max speed heavies. If you got lucky, of course, then you can outspeed more, but otherwise, you're not that quick. It's more just a bulkier Pokemon. But yeah, Mr. Mime was dope. With Energy Shield, you can abuse Calm Mind. You can also abuse Recover and Nasty Plot. Energy Shield will allow you to get those moves off a lot easier. You can use Weakness Policy, Agility plus Energy Shield very early on into the game. You can bait a super effective move, tank it with ease, especially on the special side. You will take like nothing with Energy Shield, and then you can get that Agility up and go to town. Keep in mind there are so many powerful ass moves, especially on the physical side, that will completely melt through your Energy Shield. I'm pretty sure even like Ruthless Boosted First Impressions might just kill you through Energy Shield unless you're running max HP investment or something. But if you're running like a speedier Mr. Mime set, like Energy Shield won't completely save you from physical attacks because there's so many strong moves in this game. Like 200% halved is still 100%. You're still dying, But overall, you have tons of other great coverage moves via TM and Tutor. Dark Pulse, Mystical Fire, Aura Sphere, Thunderbolt, Energy Ball, all types of good options that you can abuse. And you can switch between your abilities and your EV spreads with an Infinite Usability Capsule. Mr. Mime also has great utility, not just in the form of Energy Shield, but also in the form of things like Parting Shot, Volt Switch, Taunt, Trick Room, which is now neutral priority. So you can actually get that off pretty quickly. Recover, obviously, is nice. Charm. So speaking of, with Mr. Mime, Mime Jr., like I said earlier, has Prankster, which is very fitting for this cute little guy. And you can use Prankster for Hala, Totem Gumshoes, Araquanid, and a bunch of other boss fights. Prankster Charm at level 17 is huge. Like, that's really good for Hala. You're ready 4 times with this fighting as well. So he's a great Pokemon for Hala. Of course, if you're doing a team like Nuzlocke, you don't get to pick your options as freely, which is kind of what this hack is balanced around anyways. But, if you got it and you're Nuzlocke, then go ahead and, it's a great Pokemon. It still dies to, like, common priority moves that Hala will use against you, especially Bullet Punch, but it's still a good option. And of course, Technician is still viable for Hala because of moves like Confusion and Draining Kiss and Harming Voice, so it really depends on what you need. You also get Psychic Terrain in time for Hala, so you can actually use that to prevent priority moves for 5 turns. So you can actually Psychic Terrain up and then go to town with like Draining Kiss, and maybe you're now immune to Bullet Punch. That does take up a move slot though, which has a big opportunity cost because you don't have access to Move Relearner. You would have to delete one of your moves like Charm or a Stab move or Tickle or Encore or any of these other amazing moves. So it is still a bit situational. But that's part of the challenge of the hack, right? You're supposed to balance your level up moves in conjunction with your TM and Tutor options, which are reteachable while your level up moves are not. So you do got to be very careful with that. Topsy Turvy, very good. It's priority. It's really nice for totems, especially. Barrier also works great with Energy Shield. Hypnosis works great with Energy Shield. You got all types of awesome. Even Trick Room with Energy Shield is huge. You've got so many good things to abuse here. You have very, very powerful stab moves late game. You can look up what all these do now. There's a couple of new moves there, so you can just honestly check them out. I'm not even gonna bother getting into them because they're not super relevant in terms of like how he functions. They're just stronger options if you want it, with drawbacks, of course. The inaccurate ones I would say are not seldom worth it unless you're running wide lens, because in Hardcore Nuzlocke, if you miss, it can be it can spell death. So yeah, Mirror Coat, great for Ultra Necrozma, and then lastly, you do get Omni boosting options. Keep in mind, you still die to First Impression, so unless you have a Psychic Surge Pokemon on your team, you're going to be vulnerable to physical priority moves, especially because First Impression will always crit, and it's super effective on you now, so it'll crit right through your, Barrier boost or Mimic boost. Speaking of, yes, Z Mimic will give you +1 to all your stats, makes you super fast, super bulky, super strong. You can either choose to baton past that, however it is a negative priority, or you can abuse it yourself with your great dual stab. You can use Technician plus Z Mimic plus, Draining Kiss. You can also just use like straight up Technician Calm Mind Draining Kiss or Energy Shield Calm Mind. There's so many different options for Mr. Mime, both offensive and defensive with Technician and Energy Shield. It's beautiful. I love it. If you're coming fresh off the Starmie video, you might be thinking, oh my god, he gives Energy Shield to a lot of Pokemon. It's a decent amount of Pokemon, but I do try to keep overlap between Pokemon of the same type combo completely to a 0, like to a minimum. But if you do look on the ability sheet on the Google Sheet, you can see right here on screen, you can see all the other Pokemon that have the ability Energy Shield alongside all the other new abilities and buffed abilities like Hustle and stuff. So yeah, that's really about it. I don't know what else to say. He's just the GOAT. He's got great coverage, great Technician options, great utility with Energy Shield, great utility moves, good typing. He does have that new addition in a bug weakness, and he's obviously held back. Any frail offensive Pokemon is held back by that First Impression weakness, and any other strong priority move for that matter. But yeah, that's really about it. I'll leave it up there. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. again, check out that Google Sheet. I highly encourage you to do that. I appreciate it. And I'll be back for more coming up. Peace.